You don't need a crowd to chase your calling. You don't need a committee to confirm your commitment. You were built for this. You were born to stand even when you're standing alone. You are a one-man army. See, people think success is a group project. They think elevation is a popularity contest. But let me tell you something. The path to greatness is often lonely. The road to legacy is walked with blistered feet and tear-stained eyes. But the soldier who endures becomes a general. The man who fights in silence becomes the one they applaud in public. You think I had a team when I was homeless? You think I had cheerleaders when I was eating out of trash cans? When I was sleeping in abandoned buildings? No, I had pain, I had purpose, I had perseverance, and that was all I needed. Some of you are waiting for support that may never come. You waiting for validation that might not arrive. But you don't need a village when God gave you a vision. You are enough. Your grind is enough. Your discipline is your weapon. Your hunger is your armor. When life pushes you down, you get back up. Not because someone helped you, but because you made a decision. I will not quit. A one-man army doesn't ask, who's with me? A one-man army says, even if no one shows up, I'm gonna war. So stop crying about who left. Stop waiting for them to believe. Stop begging for backup. Look in the mirror. That's your army. That's your commander-in-chief. That's your soldier. That's your secret weapon. You don't need 10,000 followers to move. You just need one. You. Now rise, fight, win. You don't need a crowd to chase your calling. That's the lie they've been feeding you since day one. Society told you if nobody clapped, you're not good enough. If nobody's watching, it's not worth doing. Well, let me wake you up today. Let me shift your perspective. You weren't created for the approval of people. You were created for a purpose that exists regardless of applause. Your calling is not a concert. It doesn't require an audience. It just requires obedience. The greatest movements in history didn't start with million. They started with million, and they started with one. One person, one moment, one decision. One voice saying, I will not stay silent. One heart saying, I was made for more. One soul willing to sacrifice comfort for calling. The world tells you to wait until you have a crowd, until you have followers, until you get that blue check, until you go viral. But I'm telling you right now, your purpose doesn't need permission. It just needs you to step up. See, there's power in solitude. When you're alone, that's when the noise fades. That's when the distractions die. That's when the real you stands up and says, I was made for this. You don't need a round of applause to know you're valuable. You don't need someone to repost your grind. What you need is resolve. What you need is clarity. What you need is fire in your soul that says, nobody sees me, I see me, even if no one believes I believe. Let me tell you something. Crowds are seasonal. They show up when you win and vanish when you fail. But purpose is permanent. Purpose walks with you in the dark. Purpose shows up when everyone else ghosts you. Purpose doesn't flinch when the storm rolls in. That's why chasing your calling without a crowd is the greatest test of your authenticity. Because if you can move when no one is watching, you'll be unstoppable when the spotlight comes. Everybody wants to shine, but nobody wants to grind in the dark. You want stage lights, but not street fights. You want celebration, but not confrontation. Let me be real with you. You're going to have to move when it's just you, your thoughts, your doubts, and your dreams. You're gonna have to fight through days where you feel invisible. You're gonna have to work when there's no confirmation, no compliments, no cheerleaders. And that's when you'll find out if this is just a fantasy or your life's assignment. I remember when I had nothing, no platform, no status, no followers, but I had passion, I had grit. I had this voice inside me saying, Eric, you were made for more. That's all I needed. I didn't need thousands to validate me. I didn't need hundreds to support me. I just needed to believe. I needed to wake up every morning and act like the world was watching, even when it wasn't. That's how you chase your calling. You act as if your destiny is already waiting for you, even if it's still out of reach. The truth is, if you only move when others move with you, you're not a leader, you're a follower. If your effort depends on attention, you'll never outlast the ones who grind in silence. You know what separates the great from the average. It's not talent, it's not money, it's not luck. It's the ability to keep going when the only voice cheering is your own. It's waking up on Monday knowing nobody's looking and still choosing to show up like it's game day. People won't always understand your path. That's okay. It's not their path. It wasn't handed to them. It was assigned to you. Stop expecting people to support a vision they weren't given. Stop waiting for encouragement from those who don't have the capacity to see what you see. Your calling was handcrafted by God with your fingerprints on it. And when he gave it to you, he didn't say, go on only if they come too. He said it, go. Some of you are holding back because you don't feel seen. You're shrinking because you feel overlooked. But let me flip the script. What if the isolation is preparation? What if the season of silence is building the strength you'll need when the crowd finally does come? What if the reason you're not being noticed is because God is still molding you, still teaching you to depend on him, not them? You want the microphone, but can you handle the weight of your mission without recognition? Because here's what I know. When you become comfortable being unseen, that's when you become unstoppable. When your fire is internal, nothing external can put it out. When your why is rooted in purpose, no amount of rejection, betrayal, or silence can kill it. And when you chase your calling with reckless focus, even when you're the only one running, eventually the world will catch up. Eventually they'll ask how you got there. And you'll say, oh, because I didn't wait for them. I went anyway. Don't chase the crowd. Chase the call. Chase the calling. Don't perform, produce. Don't beg for visibility. Build in obscurity. Because the truth is, when you grind without eyes on you, you're developing something the world can't take away. And that's character. That's integrity. That's discipline. Anybody can look good for the cameras. Anybody can post a highlight reel. But can you live it when no one's filming? Can you commit when no one's clapping? You don't need a crowd to chase your calling. You just need courage. Courage to trust the unseen. Courage to believe in yourself when no one else does. Courage to start knowing the finish line might be far away. Courage to speak, knowing you might be misunderstood. Courage to build, knowing people may tear it down. And courage to keep showing up because your calling is greater than your comfort. I dare you to walk alone. I dare you to move without the echo of approval. I dare you to rise before the world wakes up. I dare you to chase it like your life depends on it, because it does. You weren't made for applause. You were made for assignment. So stop looking around and start looking within. The strength you need is already inside you. The direction you need, it's already planted in your heart. The confirmation you're searching for, it's in your actions, not their affirmation. You are a one-man army, not because you want to be alone, but because you're willing to be. You're willing to go first, willing to carry the weight, willing to push when others pause. And that right there is why your calling doesn't need a crowd. It just needs a champion. It just needs you. Validation is not required when you have a vision. Let that settle in your spirit for a moment. We live in a world where people chase approval like it's oxygen, where every post, every move, every decision is filtered through the question, will they like it? Will they clap for me? Or will they agree with me? But when you've been called to do something greater, when purpose is burning inside you, you can't afford to wait on applause. You can't afford to let hesitation steal your destiny, because vision isn't about being liked. Vision is about being locked in. When you really have a vision, when that idea, that mission, that fire in your belly wakes you up at night, you don't have time to run a popularity poll. Vision demands action, not acceptance. It demands movement, not permission. You don't have to be voted in when you've been built for it. You don't have to be selected by the crowd when you were handpicked by your creator. You see, vision is internal. It doesn't always make sense to the people around you. It's not always obvious. That's why so many people will try to talk you out of it. They can't see what you see. They weren't given what you were given. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. That doesn't mean you should water it down or slow it down just to make other people comfortable. Some of the most powerful visions in history were misunderstood at first. Some of the greatest leaders were rejected before they were respected. But they kept moving forward. They didn't stop to explain themselves. They didn't put their purpose on pause just because the people weren't ready. They knew validation is optional. Vision is everything. Let's get real. If you need validation to act, you're always going to be stuck. You're always going to be one opinion away from quitting, one rejection away from silence, one no away from walking away from the thing you were born to do. That's a dangerous place to live. Because people are inconsistent. People are unpredictable. One day they love you, the next day they forget you. You cannot build something eternal on something that's stable. But vision is solid. Vision is steady. It doesn't shift with emotion. It doesn't waver with trends. Vision is your anchor when everything else is noise. And don't get it twisted. Validation feels good. It's nice when people support you. It's great when people recognize your work. But if you become dependent on it, you'll become a prisoner to their opinions. You'll start shaping your future around their feedback instead of your foundation. You'll start playing small so you don't make anyone uncomfortable. You'll start editing your voice so it fits the room. But listen to me. Your vision was not made to fit in. It was made to break barriers, to shift atmospheres, to create change. Some of you have been sitting on a vision for years because someone didn't clap when you shared it. You were excited. You were fired up, but they didn't get it. Maybe they laughed. Maybe they stayed silent. Maybe they said, and in that moment you shrank. You folded. You started doubting yourself. But let me remind you, their silence does not cancel your assignment. Their disbelief does not delete your destiny. The disbelief does not delete you. Their lack of understanding doesn't mean your vision is invalid. It means it's big. It means it's bold. It means it's ahead of its time. Stop waiting for people to say you're enough before you start acting like it. Stop waiting for confirmation from people who were never meant to walk your journey. Sometimes the greatest step you'll ever take is the one you take alone. The one where you say, I may not have your approval, but I've got a fire inside me that won't let me quit. I may not have your support, but I've got a calling that won't let me sit still. When you have vision, you have to be willing to walk alone. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be okay with people questioning your sanity. They might say you're too ambitious, too intense, too different, but you're not too much. You're just too purpose-driven to be average. And here's what's beautiful. Once you start moving in your vision, truly moving not to impress, not to be seen, but because it's who you are, the right people start showing up. Not fans, not followers, but people who are aligned with your assignment. People who don't need you to explain yourself because they see it too. But those people don't arrive until you're already walking. They don't show up when you're sitting still, waiting for applause. They come when they see the consistency, when they see the grind, when they see that this isn't a fade, it's a lifestyle. And if no one ever shows up, you still win. Why? Because you were faithful to the vision. Because you honored the call. Because you proved to yourself that you could be relentless without recognition. Your job is not to be popular. Your job is to be purposeful. Your job is to wake up every day and make decisions that move your vision forward, whether it gets likes or not, whether it gets retweeted or not, whether it gets retweeted or not, whether anyone notices or not. Because vision is not about being seen. It's about seeing what could be, what should be, and being bold enough to make it reality. You gotta be sold out to the vision before the vision ever sells out an arena. You gotta be consistent before you're celebrated. You gotta be disciplined before you're discovered. Before you're discovered. The work you do in private is the foundation for the breakthrough in public. But it doesn't happen if you're always checking the crowd for permission. So let this be the day you stop chasing validation and start chasing vision. Let this be the day you stop asking for acceptance and start acting with authority. Let this be the day you say, I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this because it's in my DNA. I'm doing this because it's what I was born to do. Validation is not required when you have a vision. You just need to trust what's inside of you. Trust the whisper, trust the push, trust that burning sensation in your chest that won't let you settle. And trust that if you stay faithful to it, it will open doors that no man can shut. You don't need a round of applause. You don't need a standing ovation. You just need a decision to walk in your calling, a decision to start today, a decision to believe, not in what they say about you, but in what you already know deep down. You got the vision, you've got the fire, now move. The fight is personal before it's public. That truth is the heartbeat of every champion, the silent rhythm that drives every breakthrough you ever admired. Because before the roar of the crowd, before the headline, before the medal that's draped around the neck or the trophy hoisted into the air, there is a private battlefield that no camera captures and no audience applauds. It's the place where excuses meet execution, where comfort confronts calling, where the version of you that wants to quit wrestles the version of you that refuses to die. And until you win that invisible war, until you conquer the chaos within, the world will never witness the greatness that's buried under your skin. Look at any legend, any icon, any so-called overnight success, and you will find years, sometimes decades of unnoticed struggle. Michael Jordan in the gym before dawn, alone with the echo of bouncing basketballs. Serena Williams practicing serves long after the stadium lights go dark. Kobe Bryant shooting jumpers in an empty arena at 4 a.m. Those moments matter more than the final buzzer beater or the grand slam victory, because the stage is merely the celebration. The solitude is the certification. If you can't dominate when no one's watching, you'll crumble when everyone is. That's why the fight is personal first, because it strips you down to nothing but desire. There are no filters, no followers, no fans in the stands, just you and the truth about how badly you want this. It's easy to post a quote about grinding. It's easy to say arise and grind when your timeline is watching, but it's excruciatingly difficult to rise at 5 a.m. when the bed feels like paradise and nobody cares if you snooze. The personal fight is the alarm clock you obey, the meal you skip, the mile you run, the chapter you read, the temptation you resist, the mindset you replace, the voice you silence, the voice that seduces you with mediocrity, whispering, it's okay, you've done enough. But you haven't done enough. Not until your habits reflect the size of your dream. Not until your ritual is stronger than your rationalization. Not until discipline speaks louder than doubt. The fight is personal because greatness is personal. Your destiny has your DNA on it. It won't fit anybody else. So before the world recognizes who you are, you have to recognize who you refuse to remain. You have to look your fears in the face and say, you can't live here anymore. You have to stare at your limitations and declare, I pack your bags, we're moving past you. Understand something. If the battle isn't fought internally, it would explode externally. Insecurity shows up as arrogance. Unhealed trauma becomes sabotage. Ignored weaknesses turn into very public failures. That's why the grinding in silence is not optional. It's essential. You're reinforcing the foundation so that when the skyscraper of success rises, it won't collapse under the weight of the spotlight. The public stage is a magnifier. Whatever you hear will be highlighted. Whatever you nurture will be nourished, Many people crave the platform, but they haven't prepared their character pressure. See, the glamour without the grit, the success without the scars, the influence without the scars, the influence without the integrity. Then they wonder why fame feels fragile and fortune feels fleeting. It's because they skipped the personal fight. They walked onto the battlefield in designer shoes instead of battle-tested boots. But the real warriors, they've got calluses where comfort used to be. They've got convictions where convenience used to sit. They've got a resume of private victories that shout louder than any public praise. And here's their irony. The more personal the fight, the more public the freedom. When you conquer addiction in the dark, you liberate others in the light. When you master patience while nobody's looking, you lead with wisdom when everybody's listening. When you win the war over your mind, over anxiety, self-doubt, comparison, you create space for entire generations to follow a blueprint of resilience. Your private victory becomes a public roadmap. But the map isn't drawn overnight. It's just one painful, deliberate decision at a time. The question is, are you willing to fight without applause? Can you handle the silence of self-worth? The boredom of repetition, the discomfort of growth, because it's not glamorous, it's not viral, it's not Instagrammable, but it is non-negotiable. If you want the microphone tomorrow, pick up the mantle today. If you want the influence, first build the infrastructure. If you want the crown, first carry the cross. Because every kingdom is birthed in crucibles, not conferences. Take a hard look at your routines. Do they reflect the future you fantasize about? Does your nightly Netflix binge match the novelist you claim you want to be? Does your weekend laziness mirror the athlete you post about becoming? The personal fight is exposing that hypocrisy and replacing it with harmony. Consistency between what you say and what you do is forged in solitude, not social media. Let's be clear. The personal fight isn't just about hustle. It's about healing. It's about confronting the trauma that keeps you tethered to yesterday. It's about forgiving the betrayal that builds invisible walls around your heart. It's about unlearning beliefs implanted by people who underestimated you. Because if you don't address the internal enemies, they will sabotage every external victory. You can bank $1 million and still feel bankrupt inside. You can trend worldwide and still feel invisible to yourself. Win the war within, then watch how effortlessly you win without. There will be days when the fight feels pointless, when progress is microscopic, when the mirror mocks you, when quitting masquerades as a gift. That's when you have to remember why you started. Not the superficial why, but the soul E. Why must you write the book? Why must you launch the business? Why must you break the cycle for your family? Why must you master your craft? When that why blazes bright enough, it will incinerate every excuse. Some people will never understand the hours you log, the sacrifices you make, the parties you skip, the vacations you postpone. Let them misunderstand you. They are not in the arena, you are. Their opinions won't pay your dues. Their skepticism won't shoulder your burdens. This is personal. You'll fight, you'll furnace, you're forging. And one day when the victory is public, they'll marvel at your mettle, never realizing how intensely you were melted before you were molded. Yes, the fight is personal. It happens in basements, in back rooms, in journals, in gyms, in prayer closets, in practice fields. It happens when you turn the TV off and turn possibility on. When you trade gossip for growth, scrolling for scripting, wishing for working. It's the midnight study session, the sunrise sprint, the repeated rejection notice you turn into redirection. It's the 8th draft no one will ever read. The 1000th rep no one will ever count. The stuttered speech you practice until the sentences finally fly. Make peace with the privacy of your process. Stop craving an audience. Start cultivating authenticity. Because the applause you earn after the fight is thunderous, but it's hollow unless you know you deserve it. Only personal vows guarantee public blessings. Only hidden hustles produce historic harvests. Only unseen sacrifices create unforgettable stories. So lace up your mental boots. Walk back onto the invisible battlefield. Face the flaws that flirt with your future. Confront the doubts that stalk your dreams. Raise the standard one choice at a time. And remember, every legendary comeback, every iconic achievement, every transformative legacy begins the same way. Behind closed doors, in the quiet, with a lone warrior whispering to his own reflection, I will not lose. Fight there, win there, and the world will have no choice but to celebrate what you already know. The victory was sealed long before the spotlight ever found you. You are enough. Equip yourself. Empower yourself. Elevate yourself. This world will constantly try to convince you that you're missing something, that you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not good looking enough, not qualified enough. Every time you scroll, you're being told you need more followers, more degrees, more money, more approval. But let me tell you the truth they don't want you to hear. You are already enough. Everything you need to start is already inside you. Every tool, every seed of greatness, every ounce of courage, it's in you. It's not in some external title. It's not in a fancy degree. It's not in a social media algorithm. It's in you. The problem is you spent too long believing a lie. You've been measuring yourself against people who are running a different race. You've been waiting for someone to hand you a crown that's already sitting in your soul. You think someone else has to say you're ready. You think you need a mentor to tell you when now is the time. But deep down, you already know this is your moment. You just haven't given yourself permission to step into it. Equipping yourself starts with self-awareness. You have to know your strengths, know your values, and know your flaws. Not to shame yourself, but to sharpen yourself. To shape your direction. You can't fight for your future if you don't know what you're fighting with. Maybe you're not the loudest in the room, but you're the most focused. Maybe you're not the most educated, but your grind is unmatched. Maybe you don't have fancy resources, but you have resourcefulness, and that's often more valuable. You gotta stop underestimating your value just because you're not where you wanna be yet. Greatness is not about your starting point. It's about your staying power. Some people have advantages, yes, but the people who win are not the ones who started with the most. They're the ones who stay committed to their journey, and that's a choice. Equipping yourself is a daily decision. You decide to get up early. You decide to study. You decide to practice. You decide to get uncomfortable. That's how you build your internal arsenal. And no, it's not gonna feel easy. Sometimes equipping yourself feels like you're going backward because you're being stripped of excuses. You're shedding who you used to be so you can step into who you were always meant to become. It's heavy work. It's lonely work. But it's the work that produces real change. Then comes empowerment. And let me be clear, empowerment is not something you wait to receive. It's something you generate. It's not a mood. It's a mindset. It's not about someone else giving you a chance. It's about you creating your own. When you truly know you are enough, you stop asking for a seat at their table and start building your own. You stop knocking on doors that were never meant to open for you, and you start crafting your own keys. Empowerment is ownership, owning your story, owning your path, owning your pride. You stop blaming your past. You stop blaming your upbringing. You stop blaming your environment. Because once you take ownership, you take back power. You realize that your background may explain you, but it doesn't define you. You realize that every scar you carry is not just proof you survived. It's fuel to go further. Empowerment means no longer needing validation to validate yourself. When you empower yourself, you shift from victim to victor. You shift from passive to powerful. You stop waiting for things to change and start becoming the change. You start using your voice, even if it shakes. You start taking steps, even if they're small. You stop making excuses and start making moves, because deep down you realize no one is coming to save you. It's on you. But that's not a burden. That's a blessing, because it means your future is in your hands. And finally, elevate yourself. When you know you are enough, and when you've equipped and empowered yourself, you start climbing. Regardless of who's watching, you stop asking and start declaring I will. You realize that elevation is not a destination, it's a mindset and a discipline. You elevate yourself through the choices you make when no one is looking, through the standards you uphold, even when nobody's clapping, through the habits you repeat, even when results seem far away. Elevation doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it means separation. You can't fly if you're still tied to people who want to crawl. You can't grow if you're still surrounded by those who resent your growth. Elevating yourself may mean walking alone for a season. It may mean being misunderstood. It may mean outgrowing environments that used to feel like home. But you don't apologize for it, you rise anyway. Elevating yourself means deciding you are done living small. You're done dimming your light so others feel comfortable. You're done settling for less than what you know you deserve. You're done lowering your standards just to belong. You were not made to shrink. You were made to soar. But you will never reach new heights if you keep playing at ground level. The world tells you, await your turn. Life says, make your move. The world says, be realistic. Purpose says, defy the odds. The world says, stay safe. Destiny says, risk it all. At some point, you have to stop listening to the world and start listening to the whisper inside that's been telling you, you are more. You've always been more. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about ego. This is about alignment. It's about finally stepping into the version of yourself that you've been denying. The version that is bold. The version that is consistent. The version that is focused, intentional, and unapologetically powerful. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lacking. You are not lacking. You are enough. But being enough doesn't mean you stay where you are. It means you start where you are. It means you stop waiting to feel perfect and start taking imperfect action. It means you show up every single day with the mindset, I may not have everything, but I will maximize what I do have. And guess what? When you move like that, when you equip yourself with knowledge, empower yourself with belief, and elevate yourself with action, everything around you starts to change. Opportunities find you, people respect you, life responds to you. Not because you pretended to be something you're not, but because you owned who you already are. So today, stop looking outward, start looking inward. There's greatness there. There's power there. There's purpose there. Equip yourself, sharpen your skills, refine your focus, upgrade your circle. Empower yourself, believe deeper, speak louder, move bolder, elevate yourself, act bigger, stretch wider, reach higher. No more playing small. No more waiting for permission. No more asking, am I good enough? You always were, now act like it. Discipline and hunger are stronger than external motivation. This world loves the hype. It thrives on flashes of inspiration, motivational speeches, highlight reels, and moments that make your heart race. And don't get me wrong, those things have their place. A powerful video can spark something inside of you. A passionate voice can wake you up for a moment. But what happens when the music stops? What happens when the speech ends? What happens when you're alone again, facing the same wall, the same challenge, the same tired routine? That's when you learn the truth. External motivation is a spark, but discipline and hunger are the fire. You can't build a legacy off a mood. You can't change your life based on how you feel today. You need a force that's deeper than emotion, because emotions fade, feelings change. One minute you're pumped to go after your dreams, and the next you're drained, tired, and doubting whether you should have even started. That's where most people quit. That's where most people retreat. They wait for the next wave of motivation, hoping for another hit of adrenaline, another dose of encouragement. But you're not most people. If you want to go all the way, you need something stronger. You need discipline. Discipline is what kicks in when motivation is gone. It's what gets you out of bed when your body begs to stay asleep. It's what takes you to the gym when your legs are sore, your energy is low, and no one's watching. It's what helps you study when you rather scroll. It's what drives you to work on your craft when no one is clapping, no one even knows your name. Discipline isn't sexy. It doesn't always look impressive, but it's consistent. It's reliable. It's the invisible engine behind every visible success. See, most people are waiting to feel ready. They're waiting to feel like doing the hard thing, but discipline says, do it anyway. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It tells you what needs to be done and demands that you show up. And here's the secret. The more disciplined you become, the less you depend on motivation at all. You don't need to be hyped. You don't need a crowd. You don't need the perfect playlist or a fancy journal. You just get up and execute. Now let's talk about hunger, because hunger is the root. It's the why behind the why. It's the thing inside of you that refuses to die, no matter how many times you get knocked down. Hunger is what fuels the discipline. Without hunger, discipline becomes routine with no passion. But when you're hungry, when you want it like you need air, there's no force on this planet that can stop you. Hunger is not a wish. Hunger is not a goal written in a notebook. Hunger is a fire that makes quitting feel like suffocation. It's the mindset that says, I won't stop until it's mine. I won't settle until I've given every last piece of myself to this dream. Hungry people don't need to be told to grind. They don't need a coach yelling in their ear. They are the voice. They live with a sense of urgency. They chase the